is Holly Fries, and this is Cora Kangas, and we're bee fanatics. Okay, so we did ours on pesticides, bees, and why the world is in danger. So back in June of 2012, in a Target in Portland, Oregon, the customers could not get into the parking lot because there were so many bees in the parking lot. They were alive and dead, and they were just like, it was like a carpet. And there were some that were just, they kept falling, and this die-off lasted about, I don't know how many days. It was several days. And they had no idea what was happening with these bees. And they eventually found out that it was because they sprayed pesticides on the trees. And the pesticide was like an addiction for the bees, like with humans and nicotine. So the bees just were attracted to it, and it ended up killing the bees. So, yeah. Also, then there was a die-off of about 50,000 bees and a total of 300 colonies that were gone. So that was a very big impact on our environment.
Okay, so a little bit of background about bees. Bees are responsible for 1/3 of all of the food that we eat on Earth. In other words, if there weren't bees, they could not pollinate that food, which means that we would not have food. So they live in colonies of about 40,000 to 100,000 in one place, and it just kind of depends on how big the colony is. And if it's like a bee farm, then it'll be more. If it's a natural one, it'll be less. And one individual bee goes and pollinates for the entire summer, and all of the bees that you will see out in nature are all females, because they are the important ones. So the female bees go out and pollinate, and the male bees are only there to make sure that the hive is reproducing. And in the winter, when there's not enough resources to sustain them all, the males get kicked out and the females get to stay. So, and that is a bee that is pollinating some flowers right now.
So why are bees dying? Well, bees are dying because we are spraying pesticides on our plants, and it causes a very common phenomenon which is called colony collapse disorder. So this is when beekeepers have bees and they leave, all the bees are gone, just the queen bee without any trace, no dead bodies or anything. So they're trying to, okay, so then the pesticides are the cause of it because the bees get caught off track or they die, so then they cannot come back to their hive.
Okay, so the main pesticide that is used is called neonicotinoids, which is purposely said like that because it is like nicotine for humans in the fact that it is very, very addictive. And this is sprayed on plants or on the ground, or seeds are coated in it, and the pesticide will work its way through the entire plant and it will stay in the ground. So that means every single bit of the plant, the leaves, the pollen, the fruit, it all has this pesticide in it, which means it's very, very, very good at killing off what they don't want there. But it also means that that it affects everything else that touches that plant. So some of the most common ones are found in every single insecticide or pesticide that might be found, that are found in like hardware stores, and they're very, very commonly used. And the reason that it kills things so efficiently is they will either bring it back in the pollen and the nectar, and it'll get into the honey, and when they are having that in the winter, it ends up like they'll get so much of it in their systems that they die, or it will affect the neurotransmitters in the brain, and this makes it so that they lose their sense of direction, and they can't find their way back to their hives, so they will go out and they'll end up dying.
So what is being done about it? Well, in America, there's nothing really being done about it because, like, a lot of economists, and then from the government think that if we ban pesticides, it'll have a bigger impact on our government than the good benefit on the bees. Well, they don't think that it'll actually be good for the bees. But in Europe, they banned the use of many pesticides, including neonicotinoids, and that was back in 2013, and they're still seeing if it's working.
Humans decide eventually, and after a few months, this can lead to the collapse of the entire hive. Once outside of the cell, adult mites also suck the bodily fluids of bees and weaken them. Mites have been introduced that are deadly to bees. Neonicotinoids, a chemical family similar to nicotine, was approved in the early 1990s as an alternative to chemicals like DDT. They attack insects by harming their nervous systems. Today, they are the most widely used insecticides in the world. Globally, they saw sales of 1.5 billion euros in 2008, representing 24% of the global market for insecticides. In 2013, neonicotinoids were used in the US on about 95% of corn and canola crops, and also on the vast majority of fruit and vegetables like apples, cherries, peaches, oranges, berries, leafy greens, tomatoes, potatoes, cereal grains, rice, nuts, grapes, and many more. Bees come into contact with the toxin while collecting pollen or via contaminated water, often bringing material into the hive where it can accumulate and slowly kill the whole colony. The toxins harm bees in a variety of horrible ways. In high enough doses, it quickly leads to convulsions, paralysis, and death. But even in small doses, it can be fatal. It may lead to bees forgetting how to navigate the world. So bees fly into the wild, get lost, and die alone, separated from their hives. If this happens often enough, a hive can lose its ability to sustain itself. We know that neonicotinoids are harmful to bees and that we urgently need an alternative to it. But there are billions of dollars to be made in delaying this. Studies sponsored by the chemical industry magically appear to prove a much lower toxicity to bees compared to those produced by independent scientists. There are even more factors contributing to the demise of bees, like too much genetic uniformity, crop monocultures, poor nutrition due to overcrowding, stress because of human activities, and other pesticides. Each of those factors on its own is a major problem for bees, but...
Okay, so one major thing that I found was that it is doing this to bees, and they're not 100% sure what it's doing to humans yet, but they know it is affecting us in some way. And that kind of made me a little nervous. So, yeah. Questions?